Greetings and salutations. My name is William Honablew Jr., and I am Baltimore City's inaugural Digital Equity Coordinator. I'm here to talk to you today about Baltimore City's Digital Equity Fund, our community-centered grant program. I work in the Office of Broadband and Digital Equity that is within Baltimore City's Office of Information Technology. What I like to do with this slide is just to give you a sense of what our mission and vision has been since our inception. We're in the process of doing some transition, so we will keep you updated with that. But our values are still kind of our core element. Community engagement is key to enabling opportunities. Broadband access is a public good, and digital equity is the table stakes in a modern civil society. What we've also done is to make sure that you could pay attention to the presentation and not have to worry about taking notes or missing anything. We have all this presentation material available to you on a Google Drive that you can access using this QR code. Additionally, we have our digital inclusion strategy that you can use the green QR code to access, and our digital equity framework, the 2.0 version. That's the context and the driving force that sets the way that we think about digital equity in Baltimore City. So sit back, relax, recognize that you'll have this material for you later, and let's move on. As you start to understand about our digital equity fund, it helps to understand the context in which that fund exists. These are the four pillars of our Office of Broadband and Digital Equity. The first is that residents should be able to have reliable, high-speed internet access. Next, that they should have high-quality technology and devices. They should have the technical support to access those devices and keep those devices up to date. And they also need digital skills so that they can effectively utilize all of the technology that's available to them. This is the way that we see putting all of the elements of the digital ecosystem together to benefit the people that we serve. The way that we designed the program, I believe is very innovative. What we decided to do is to make sure that we were focused on getting the information and getting services out as meaningfully as possible. What I mean by that is that we prioritize organizations that have had a demonstrated history of working with communities that were in our covered population. We also made sure that we brought community members in on the front end to help us plan the Digital Equity Fund. And we also had them as part of the evaluation team. We paid them to come in and evaluate these programs because they were going to be some of the beneficiaries of it. As we did assessment of the digital ecosystem in Baltimore, what we realized was that different organizations were at different stages of development when it came to programming. So with the feedback that we received from the community, what we started doing was looking at how we could categorize the different types of programming or the different types of projects that we could fund. And so we broke it down into three very broad categories: outreach and education, and those each had two tiers. Planning, those had two tiers as well. And then implementation, that was only one tier. There were, as you can see here, there were different tiers and funding levels for each of the tiers. The reason that we split this out is that we recognize that a lot of our community partners were approaching this from different perspectives, all together combining into a holistic approach. So for example, we had members of our community who didn't know anything about technology, that they were very lost and confused about it. So for them, they needed to have some of that fundamental, digital skills 101. And actually, to be honest, some of them needed digital skills 79 because they were starting in a remedial spot when it came to digital technology. So some of this in outreach and education was just that really fundamental, those early touch points to help bring people into the fold and help them access resources. So the planning grants are for organizations that have been working in the digital ecosystem, have developed relationships with core constituencies, but have been able to identify that there needs to be either some kind of scalability or departure from the existing portfolio of programs that are available. So they're using this money to do the planning, to bring in some technologists, some hard resources, to do some planning, and also to bring in members of the community and other organizations who can really help them understand how to engage and how to scale up or further integrate into the communities that they're serving. And implementation is pretty straightforward. With the almost $1 million that we invested in this first cycle, there were up to 10 awards that were going to be for implementation. So that's some of these organizations have already gone through planning and things like that with other resources, and now they are ready just to kind of jump in and make things happen. And so those were available for them. As you look at our target populations, many of you will recognize many of these populations. They align very well with the federal guidance on how to distribute digital equity funding. One of the things that I can say about the way we've taken to the target population question in Baltimore is that we've identified 4 constituencies, that at least in Baltimore, kind of bring everybody else along with them. So in Baltimore, we work with people, or we focus on people living with disabilities. We focus on older adults, those who are experiencing unstable housing or homelessness, and members of racial and ethnic communities. Looking at the demographics of Baltimore, in any of those categories, you'll find everyone else. So for example, a lot of our individuals who are experiencing homelessness are also returning citizens. We do have individuals who have multiple identities. They may be an older adult with disabilities who may be experiencing homelessness. And we have to really also think about how we define homelessness in the context of digital equity. A lot of times we look at the extreme versions, people sleeping in cars or living on the street, but older adult who stays with their children, it's kind of unstable housing in some households. So it's important that as we start thinking through who and how we serve, that now these are the eligible activities and the totality of their circumstances, not organizations could get funded for. Now, I want to be clear with our funding. You didn't have to do all of these. It wasn't a situation where, we're going to go whoever does the most. These are the activities that they could get funded for, but there was still an opportunity for the evaluators to take a really good look at what's the likelihood that they'd be able to do these things, and also what would be the impact on the communities that we served, and that was also factored in to the decision making. Increasing community and neighborhood connectivity is, again, a really big area of emphasis for us. We are working with one of our grantees, OpenWorks, who've created this kiosk that serves as a Wi-Fi extender and a charging station, is solar powered and self-contained. And we're partnering with them to roll those out across the city. We're working to increase resident comfort level with technological devices and the like. We've had an amazing partnership with organizations like NPower, that's NPOWER, working with many of our senior centers. Also, we have the amazing Enoch Pratt-Free Library System that have been incredible partners in this work. And they're doing a lot of the work that helps residents become more comfortable with those types of services and the internet use. Digital education services, most of us who are in this work understand what that means. There was also a focus on school and recreation center programs. And the reason why is that we feel that when you integrate things into schools, if we're going to be honest about it, while schools have been required to take on the lion's share of co-parenting with individuals, they are also in the best position to roll out a program and have that program sustained in the community. So we may roll out a program at a senior center or at a recreation center or at a school. And let's say Congress being what Congress is, that the money dries up. Well, if we have already placed it in the schools and the senior centers and the rec centers, and they have been able to see the value, then it is possible that we may be able to find other funding for those and continue those programs. There is also, I want to highlight this again. I'm not reading all of this for you. You can read it. But visual and auditory art projects that center on digital equity was also a really big anchor point for us. Because at times when we think of technology, we think of it only in terms of the digital, of the things that we can touch. And also looking at how those things either turn a profit or increase revenue or things like that. And sometimes we miss out on the social justice aspect of art and creativity and how digital tools can be used to facilitate and explore those things. So I was also really excited about this one. So what I want to make sure that we understand about this slide when we talk about key audiences, our residents are the primary audience. All that we do is designed to make our residents, the lives our residents lead, better for them. One of the other ways that we also do that is that when we look at faith-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, other city agencies, local press, and also sponsors, we prioritize and work very heavily with those sponsors and organizations that are composed of individuals who are born and raised in Baltimore. Not just, it is, and then, it goes to those who live in Baltimore and, that kind of thing. Because what we find is, especially in the community outreach side, we find that people want to engage people at least who they know. The reality is that many people are getting tired of these people from outside of the jurisdiction coming in to tell them what they need and how they're going to help those people. So make sure that that focus for us, I think, has been a critical success factor. Now, this is my favorite slide. It's where we're refocused on in the Digital Equity Fund. Again, we took a resident-centric approach. We talked to the residents who would benefit from the program. We went to their neighborhoods, their communities. We in many cases, went door to door. We sat in restaurants, at community meetings and those types of things to get the type of information, to find out from people what they actually wanted, and with a follow-up question of what would you come out for? Because they may want something, but what we found over the years is that sometimes what they want isn't necessarily what they're willing to invest resources in access. The other piece that we took into consideration, having worked with many of the community-based and nascent stage organizations, is that there was a lack of business acumen. A lot of these people started their programs and started their engagements. Why? Because they cared. They did it because they wanted to see something better for the people that they serve. They did not do it because they're really good at 990s or they're really good at fundraising or what have you. They saw a need and they filled the need. And so if you are going to bring those types of individuals into or fund those types of organizations, you need to understand that in many cases, their ability to have impact and talk to the populations or have built trust with those populations has come at the expense of business acumen. And so as you are looking at evaluations, as you are looking at training, as you look at the different types of support they need, find out what they need as far as their business development. Because let's get it very clear. There is no organization that's going to be successful just on your project and, their board sucks or their fundraising or their budgeting sucks. That won't work that way. So you need to make sure that you take that into consideration and be honest about the bandwidth that you all have, whether you're working with nonprofit entrepreneurship centers, small business resource centers, the SBA, the SBDA, any of these organizations. Make sure that there are resources available that they can rely on to take their business to the next level, or hell, even in some cases, just getting it stable. Skills development. There are individuals that you will find that are offering programs where they have really great skills, or really good skills, but their skills may not be as current. And so, as you know, they may be really like, if there's somebody who can teach like a master's class in Microsoft Paint, I mean, that's awesome. But the question is, for whom is that? Like, how is that going to benefit the people that we serve? So, as you start thinking about making sure that they are not just passionate, not just committed, not just able to engage the community, but making sure that they have the skills necessary to deliver. Again, making sure they have the right certifications and any other type of business or social development skills, because some people are good at tech, not good at people. So those may be also some skills that you may want to focus on and get people together with. Make sure that you have an inclusive applicant recruitment process. It is easy just to send some emails out to the places that you already sent emails out to talk to the people that you know are going to show up. It's easy and it makes a lot of sense to do that. But here's the thing that I want you to remember. We need to bring new people to the digital equity ecosystem, because if the people here could have closed the digital divide, we would have done it already. We need more help. So that means that some of the programs that normally are kind of the go-to ones, they may not get funded. They may not even be recruited to submit an application because they've not demonstrated an ability to focus on the residents in need. Compliance versus operations. What we've done is that we've broken out our digital equity fund into 3 different areas, and I'll just talk about the 2 that we handle as as city employees. One of my colleagues, Miriam, she is on top of compliance, and I tell the grantees like, "Hey, Miriam's job is to make sure that Kenya and the mayor are happy, so that they can make sure the state is happy. They can make sure the feds are happy. My job is to make sure we do what's necessary to make sure that Miriam is happy." Miriam is focused on compliance. And some of this has to do with our skill sets internally. Miriam is really, really great at details. I am really, really great at big picture. So we can work together to ensure that we have the compliance necessary for the Mayor's Office of Recovery Programs and for the federal government. And at the same time, be in a position where we can continue to support their operations, that we can continue to support their growth and development, because not only do we want to have great numbers for this program, because that this pilot, because let's not get it twisted, that's what this is. We want to make sure that we are developing capable and competent practitioners in this space so that we can take it all to the next level. Reporting and check-ins. Even right now, we are having internal disagreements. Well, not even disagreements. We're working through trying to figure out what's best in the way of reporting and check-in. I am a really big fan of not necessarily micromanaging, but checking in. Like, I don't need to sit down and watch everything you do, but I need you to make sure that I'm comfortable that we are headed in the right direction. And one of the reasons that I do that is because a lot of this stuff for many of us is new. And so there may be things that we start out doing that don't actually work that way, where we have to pivot and we have to rethink some things. And a lot of times we don't know that until we measure it. And so what we began to institute were these monthly check-ins, and monthly check-ins where they would meet with us, and monthly check-ins where they would submit like a report. We found out very, very quickly that that is a one-size solution that does not fit all sizes. So, for example, one of our grantees is MedStar Health, and they're not getting a large sum of money because they just wanted funding to support and expand their some of their workforce development programs and things with their clients, with health equity with their patients. And so they, whenever, because of compliance issues and the way that the large hospital system operates, whenever they have a meeting on this grant, 5 people show up. Well, that's vastly different than one of our other grantees who are like a 4-person shop, and they need all of the help and support. And we spend some of the check-in time even doing kind of business coaching or project coaching and things like that. And so figuring out what makes sense, and having them available to share that information with you, and so this is the other part, having a relationship where they feel comfortable telling you that. We've also realized that there are times where many of our grantees don't realize what is voluntary and what is mandatory. So, they feel that if we say, hey, we're having this event, well, we have to go because they're the grantor. Even though we've told them, no, that's not how we roll. We look at what you do. We look at how you support, blase skip. That is still part of the reality of. As you start building out your program, please be aware of any procurement and purchasing rules, regulations, and foolishness that you all have going on. And also, let me be honest, invite the lawyers early. They will be a pain the whole time, I know. And as a lawyer, I know what we do, but bring us in early because, for example, our digital equity fund, we were ready to rock and roll until the lawyers got involved and said, oh, no, this needs to be changed. This needs to be changed, which actually set us back a little longer, which, it is not great when you have a grant funded program. Grantee reporting and evaluation. Initially, we found it was very helpful, especially because there were some challenges on administration and bureaucracy on our side. We found it very helpful to have the first grantee report be more of a project narrative about what's going on. If they had any quantitative data, that they would provide that. And also really talking to them about what evaluation should look like. Now, the reality is that in their grant applications, many of them have written out some things about evaluation, and some of them made a lot of sense at the time. But given because of some delays on our parts, 6 months between application and starting, some of the world has changed. And some of those things need to be reconsidered. So having ongoing conversations about where you are, what metrics are being hit, and which ones may need to be rethought of or reconsidered. The last piece is remember that people will screw things up and that it is okay if they do. We are learning from this. One of the things that I try to do is that in each meeting, I try to make sure that we are all on the same page. We're all here to help everybody in the city, the residents of the city, best we can, right? Right. So every suggestion, every conversation, every engagement, I will assume that that's where you're coming from, even if it doesn't sound like it. And I'll ask you about it. Cool. That way it becomes more comforting or comfortable for people to share what's going on. And if there is a mistake on the horizon, if there are some feelings that may not be, that need to be vetted out more, there's a space for that. Okay, so this was a fun slide. As you all can see, these are not just my coworkers and colleagues. These are our grantees. Their names are also here. And by the way, there's a little skinny guy in the middle there. He's the mayor. He has a blue jacket and some, I think some Nikes on or some Adidas. It doesn't even matter. But these are our grantees. I encourage you all to look them up, Google them, take a look at what they're doing. There are some amazing organizations that are doing big stuff in Baltimore. All right. Thank you very much for your time and attention in this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace.